Now, something else that has impressed me about working with you guys and learning what you do is that you guys tend to go over and above expectations when working with your doctors.
You're saying we're extra?
You are extra. In more ways than one, you're extra. And again, FYI, I've been working with them for years now. I get to say that.
We're special.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Small Business Success Talk. Full transparency, I'm over the moon about this one. Super excited because I'm interviewing one of my clients today. I have been thinking this through a little bit, but over the years that I've worked with them, I'm like, their story is really good and I'd love to spotlight them. I just haven't wanted to show favorites to my clients first, even though some people might be that way, and that's great. That's just not been the way that have handled it. So I absolutely adore these guys. There's just so much fun for they're my engineers, okay? I don't know how to explain them really. Their personalities are classic nerdy. They love metal music. They are punny and dad jokes all day long, but their brilliance and their engineering and their innovation and what they do with technology for the business and their obsession about customer service are the things that really make me admire them. It's a family-owned business. I chuckle because as I'm thinking about like moments I have spent with them, I'm super excited to share them with you because they're just a blast. And I love the outcome of what they do is really important in the world. So the business is Telscreen, and they do digital imaging systems that go onto slit lamps within eye doctors. So think of your optometrists, your MDs, and your ophthalmologists. Not every office or every practice is going to have them, but most of them do. And a lot of them are Telscreen iRes systems. So iRes Diamond, Platinum, Gold systems are typically going to be what you find in your doctor's office. If you've not ever stuck your head on one of those and you just kind of put your chin on that and you just open your eyes real wide and they can see what's going on in your eyes. And then with this digital imaging system, they can take video or pictures and actually show you real time what's happening with your own eyeball. I love this stuff that they do. And I have learned a lot and I've seen a lot over the years. Some of it really gross. I'm not a medical person, so it's not something that sparks me. But if you are in the medical field at all, or you find those things fascinating, I highly encourage you to go check out some of the images we have on their gallery. But in the meantime, here we go. I'm ready to introduce you to one of my favorite clients. All my clients are favorites, so let's not start that either. One of my clients who run Telscreen, set of brothers, Wes Harris and Kent Harris with Telscreen. Thank you guys for being willing to be on this episode for Small Business Success Talk. Like, you really don't know what you're getting yourself into, but because you are my clients.
Excellent.
I was like, while we're here, because we also need content for you. It's one of the things I do with this show is it provides content for somebody to be able to use out in the interwebs, if you will. And I also have been wanting to spotlight you guys for a while because I really appreciate everything that you've been doing over the years. Why are you laughing?
And you like the shine off our bald heads. Why else would you put us in the spotlight?
Oh, this is going to be so fun.
I don't know if I can be properly reflective for this kind of conversation.
Oh, this sounds going to be okay. So let's start with, I already know it, but give my listeners your origin story. Like, how did you guys come up with this whole thing that you do?
Well, once upon a time, our father was on a Jewish hospital board with an ophthalmologist who was traveling in a 200-mile radius of Louisville to find the 3 patients who needed retina surgery that week. He would fly his whole staff, rent an office, screen 70 patients, and then he would send a limousine to pick up the patients, bring them to Louisville, have surgery, put them up overnight, see them one day post-op, send them home in a limousine. And this was the 90s.
Yes. Reimbursement rates were much better then.
But he clearly understood that this model wouldn't last.
Right.
So his question to our father was, is there any way that we could just send images instead of having to take my whole staff to go screen patients? And of course, Pat the optimist said, of course there is. And then he turned to Kent and I and said, how are we going to do that?
Well, you guys play a game that's hosted in Norway, right? So surely we can send an image.
So basically, Pat being an ultimate sales guy, this is the whole say yes and figure it out later approach.
Well, in fairness, he did have a lot of years of experience hooking up cameras to microscopes and looking at batwing microcirculation and recording it and measuring things from that. So this wasn't too far of a stretch for him to say, yes, it certainly can be done.
I do remember we recorded a story about parrot anesthesia.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and the beak and all that kind of stuff. I may include that as one of the segments here. So stay tuned. You might hear a story from Pat while we're at it. Okay, keep going.
So the answer is we need to have an instrument with a camera on it that we can then capture. Back in the 90s, capture still. We didn't really have video ambitions then, but capture still image, forward it from an optometrist's office or a comprehensive or general ophthalmologist's office to a retina specialist who would then look at the image and make the determination, do I need to see this patient in my office or not? It wasn't remote diagnostics at the time. The idea wasn't to say
90s, folks. 90s.
Right.
Dial up.
Most of you probably weren't born yet.
9.6 for those who remember. So if we could send an image to the ophthalmologist, the retina specialist who could then screen it and decide, would I like to examine this patient in my office? Is there a chance that they need my advanced services? Then a screening decision could be made and sent back to the referring office without anybody having to travel. So telemedicine at its finest. So we built a store and forward network in which the picture was captured, it was uploaded. The retina specialist got a notification, hey, there's an image for you to review.
You've got mail.
And then,
yes, that's how it was.
Exactly. Then the ophthalmologist, the retina specialist, would look at that image and write notes back to the referring office stating either this patient does not need to be seen by me, and perhaps recommending that they be seen by someone else locally. Or, yes, this patient is suspicious for whatever condition and should be referred for consultation, for examination and consultation. So it was not remote diagnostics. It was simply a refer or don't refer decision. And the idea is you didn't want patients driving 200 miles if they didn't have to. But on the other hand, you didn't want them sitting at home and going blind because they didn't get the care they needed.
Right. Okay, so that's the beginning of it. Let's talk about the progression of it.
So as we were trying to figure out how to do this, and back when Windows 95 had just come out, and
Windows NT.
Windows NT and Windows 95 had just come out. And I was working as a programmer at Micromed. And for those of you who are programmers out there, that's Visual Studio 1.52C for those of you out there.
I'm not a programmer, by the way. I have no idea what he just said.
So I developed what I thought was a really nice program back at the time when Office was still file, edit, view, print. That was Microsoft Office and the toolbar they provided as part of the toolkit you used for developing software. So I developed this nice little application that, the file menu was patient because obviously, patient is the most important thing. And, eventually it's patient and live video and all these things. And we start developing an application to show the camera live, capture an image, send a message or not. And so I started with that, and a great friend, Dr. Larry Alexander, was kind enough to look at the early versions of the software. And so he had our first unit, and I'm proudly demonstrating my software to him, a young engineer, and this is my second or third iteration. So, it's polished. This is really good. And he looks at this and he sees a gray background screen and he says, "What is this? This is crap. What do you want me to do here? I don't see what I'm supposed to do. How do I use this thing?" He says, "Let me just break it down for you guys. If it takes me 1 second more in the exam room, I'm not going to use it. It's crap." Design requirement number 1.
Don't let it be crap.
So,
and faster for doctors. That's where that concept came from.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dr. Larry Alexander was very gracious with his time. We had a lot of hours spent in a darkened exam room where he and Pat would be looking at my eye while I was holding it open for 30 minutes under max illumination. Try not to blink. Don't cry. Suck it up.
Oh, you won't be blind for very long.
It's just a little bit longer. But yeah, he was very gracious with his time and the guidance of time is everything. The doctor's time is the limiting factor in the practice. So if we're taking even a second more of his time in one exam, multiply that by 30 or 40, and you can't afford that. It makes him further behind.
Sure.
So we went back to the drawing board, and Kent had another shot at the user interface design.
And I learned the key lesson was your expectations are not your user's expectations. And obviously, a lot of user interface design progress has happened over the last 3 decades. And so we've learned a lot more. But the first thing I learned as a young engineer was doctors look at the center of the screen. And they don't see anything on the edges. So don't put anything important there because they're not going to see it. Because, one of my early worries was the early problems in the first software design was users would tend to click the X in the upper right corner when they were done with something. That's what kind of Microsoft had trained them to do. And unfortunately, for most programs, that closes the whole program, not just the current context that you're in, whether it's a patient or a file or whatever. So Microsoft Word back in those days was the first on the cutting edge of a multiple document interface, meaning you could have more than one file opened at the same time.
Ooh.
Yeah. And somewhere out there's, a 30-year-old saying, "What? I don't get it." You mean you can't just have 16 tabs open?
Who opens just 16 tabs? Come on.
Well, my realtor, because she liked tab. But anyway. So
moving right along. In case you didn't get that, I really don't want to explain it.
No one does. Except Ken.
Right.
So moving along, the software developed and the technology at that time was growing very fast. The 90s, computers basically did times 100 and CPU speed and storage and memory. Everything was accelerating pretty much about every 6 months. You'd have a doubling back when Moore's law was every 6 months, and then it kind of was 60 or 18. Which one?
18.
18? Was it always 18?
Yes.
Okay. Well, every 18 months,
That's gotten shortened nowadays.
Well, they've managed to keep up with it even after they've had, several 10s or 20s of doublings, right? We've been, 30 years? So, yeah, 20 doublings. That's a lot. And back then, a megabyte of memory, that's what you were working with. It was extended DOS. DOS was 640K. You got to a meg. Woo! Oh my gosh. Are you telling me this disk drive has 10 megabytes of storage? That's huge. We'll never fill that up.
The disk that I'm using to record on the camera and this is 128
gigabytes.
Gigs. Yes.
Right. Yeah, that's how far technology has come. But back in the 90s, we had to do all sorts of tricks to get 30 frame per second live video. We had to get some custom hardware. We found this great hardware vendor that would capture an image, write it directly to your video screen. So it bypassed any processing by the computer. It's just send it to the screen, write directly in the screen's memory. Totally ignore anything else that's going on. I'm writing video here, and you tell me where here is supposed to be. And you can imagine that's a little bit difficult when, you've got someone doing something off in the background, writing stuff to your screen, and your other programs might pop up or do something and, need to control that. So it was fun. There was a lot of cool things that we learned. And of course, drivers are changing every 18 months. Every, new chip is coming out, a new board with a new something. And how do you manage that? And again, Wes was right. Our first release was on Windows NT, which stood for new technology, by the way. But it was significant because it was an operating system that was designed for multitasking and multi-threading built into the operating system. It wasn't the early versions of Windows 3.1 and
that would do one thing at a time.
They would do one thing, and they would sort of fake task switching, and you had all sorts of problems with memory getting clobbered by one person trying to use the same addresses as someone else would use, and how do you know, and how do you keep them separate, and how do you play nicely on the playground when it's just an open field and there's one merry-go-round and everyone has to use it. So
that's a pretty good analogy. So if you had to explain, we're talking a lot about software, we're talking a lot about technology, but what is it that you actually provide for eye doctors?
So fast forward 30-something years, well, it's not quite 30 years, but 25,
about 30.
About almost 30 now. And now we have a pre-designed system, so you can use our hardware if you want, that typically supports 2 or 3 monitors. A lot of times a doctor will want to see a monitor close to where they're looking through the eyepieces so they can glance over at the monitor and see what it looks like on the camera. Or they've also are feeding it to a large monitor in their exam room, and so that the patient's family can see what's going on while they're doing their exam. We have that capability. It's a monitor mounted on a pole-mounted arm. It's a camera attached to their microscope. So we've done the optical design and the camera interface to say, okay, you hook these into your microscope, and now the camera can see what you can see on one of your eyes.
For all of the different types of slit lamps that are out there, for most of the models of a certain style, we can put a camera on it. There's a few slit lamps that do not have the right optical design, and you can't put a beam splitter on those. But for all the rest of them, there's different mechanical matings, there are different optical formats, but we have the right tools to interface to those. Put a camera on it. You can keep your slit lamp. You don't have to buy a new one. But we'll attach our camera to your slit lamp.
So for all of our
eye doctor listeners.
Yeah. What does a slit lamp do?
So when the doctor...
It blinds patients.
Come on now.
When the doctor needs to see inside your eye. So if something is like if your eyes are red and they're watering and they're tearing, and they want to find out, is there something, on the surface of your eye? Is there any sort of blood vessels growing? Yeah. If you're a contact lens user and suddenly your eyes are feeling more painful or more dry, and maybe they want to look at the fit of your contact lens to say, hey, this lens is either sticking or moving or not moving the way it's supposed to move, or not allowing oxygen in. It's getting too dry. Your tear production is going crazy trying to keep this thing wet. Maybe there's signs of new blood vessels growing where they're not supposed to. Maybe they're looking at the lens, going through the iris to find out, hey, look, Part of the problem is you've got a cataract developing, and that's a opaque spot on your lens that's basically a dirty window between the outside world and your retina, which is what's perceiving the outside world.
Or even herpes on the eye, which I've seen that picture, so I know.
Yeah, do you have a viral infection?
You have an
a
infection.
bacterial infection?
Yeah,
different things.
I've seen the eyeballs.
So it's a basic instrument for examining the eye, from ocular surface all the way back through to as deep as you can see, with adding a condensing lens and going all the way to the back of the eye, looking at the retina, looking at the macula, looking at the optic disc.
It's just so amazing. Technology like that is just amazing. Like you're seeing right through my eyeball, not my soul, but my eyeball. Anyway, okay. So you guys have been doing this for almost 30 years.
30 plus.
30 plus. What are some things, what is it about this business, about what you've done that really jazzes you the most about it?
I'd say it's just the opportunity to help people. The doctor-patient communication channel has evolved a lot over the years. Way back in the day, anybody with a white coat was an expert and an authority figure, and they could deliver a diagnosis and a lecture about what you should do, and you would do it. That has evolved to be everyone's a skeptic.
I just want to take a minute to thank the sponsor of our show, 502 Hemp in Louisville and 812 Hemp in Clarksville, Indiana. If you are looking for quality legal cannabis products, they are definitely your source. If you have questions of what would work best for you, their educated staff can help you choose the best product for your needs, like they did with me. I was having some real issues. One, my hormones were raging and I was raging all the time, just not in a very good place. And when I went into the store and I expressed everything that was going on, they asked additional questions that helped them get me to a solution. And the solution meaning better sleep at night, my inflammation's lower. I have been able to just be a better quality of life with my whole mental attitude because these things work great. My preference is the Maria products. That is a special blend that 502 Hemp owners have created themselves. And I use the Ultra Spectrum CBD gummies, the blood orange. It's 1,000 milligrams. Like, this is the potent stuff, like, meaning it's the highest milligrams I can get. And I need that for what my system needs. You may not need that much. They also have oils. And so I love the full spectrum here as well, but they have ranges, and according to what you're looking for to help in your body, they can help guide you in that way. So check them out at either 502hemp.com or 812hemp.com. Or if you're driving by, stop in one of the stores and they will absolutely be able to help you out. There's no need to wait for a medical dispensary to open. They have safe, reliable products now. And if you stop in a store, tell them Christy sent you, they'll give you 15% off. And not only that, but if you order online, 502hemp.com or 812hemp.com, and you put in that discount code of success, you'll also get 15% off. So check them out today. And I very much appreciate them being a sponsor of Small Business Success Talk.
Well, as of course it's hard without the video, but I guess would be phrased as somewhat past my prime in terms of age.
Billy Graham's got nothing on him.
Yeah, that's true. And so I always like to have to start. I start with students by telling them that we have to be very clear on something before we enter my lecture sequence. I want the students to understand I know I look old. I know that. So it doesn't bother me if you want to refer to me as the old man. But I want you to understand I look old because I am old. That's the fundamental facts. So I've been lecturing 55 years in a medical school, 4 different medical schools now. And students will ask, well, boy, that's a long time. When are you going to retire? And I like to tell students, I'm going to keep doing it till I get it right. That's my way of saying you've got more to learn even after I'm finished with you. But anyway, So I'm lecturing one day, and of course all the med students have their laptops and all that stuff, and they're on the internet, and they're doing all this stuff during the lectures and so forth. So I had a medical student raise his hand, and I stopped and says, well, what's your question? He says, well, not really a question, Dr. Harris, but I looked up on WikiLeaks, Wikipedia. That's not a political story. Wikipedia, and it's saying pretty well the same thing you've been telling us.
Oh my gosh, seriously?
Seriously. And I said, how old is Wikipedia? Oh, he says, maybe 20 years. And I said, how long do you think I've been teaching in medical school? He thought for a moment. He said, probably longer than that. And I said, where do you think Wikipedia got their stuff? Never had another question from a student, and that story has continued through the years. I've never got a question from a student about related to Wikipedia this or that or whatever. So
don't mess with old people.
Yeah, exactly.
So what are some things that jazzes you about what you do in this business? Let's try this.
It's really the opportunity to help people. We have the opportunity to step in as a piece of technology to facilitate the doctor-patient conversation. Back in the day, the white-coated doctor would say, I looked at your eyeball, here's what I found, here's what I want you to do. And we would all do it, blindly following.
Because they looked very credible and official.
And that white coat, that just says, do what I say, right? But now everyone's a skeptic. There's Dr. Google. If you feel something in your eye, you go type in on Google, I feel something in my eye. What do you think it is? And Google makes up an answer, or ChatGPT makes up an answer for you.
First, take your finger out of your eye.
Right. But the point is, everyone's a skeptic. So what facilitates the doctor-patient communication so that patients actually get the value of the medical expertise?
Right.
The doctor has a chance to explain, here's a picture of your eye, here's what I see, here's why I'm concerned, here's what we can do about it if you choose. And now there's treatment options, and the patient can go Google the treatment options if they want, but at least they're starting with a professional diagnosis. So that engagement with the patient to then allow the patient to choose, it's my eyes, it's important, let me do something about it. And then the trust that's built up between the doctor and the patient. You showed me my eye, you explained what's going on, you gave me choices, you didn't just lecture me with your white coat.
And the other thing is, if you do have a disease, which, some of you are going to be unfortunate enough to have ocular disease, some of those diseases progress over time. And it's best to document as things are going along. If you're expecting treatment to do one thing and they come back, the patient shows back up in the office and it didn't do that thing, then you need to be able to compare, what did it look like before? What does it look like now? Back in the old days, most doctors like, well, why do I need to do that? I remember every patient I saw, for the last 20 years.
They clearly weren't 50 yet.
Yeah. Well, some of the 50-year-olds were pretty impressive. Dr. Larry Alexander that I mentioned earlier, he was one of those guys that just remembered. And they were trained to remember, and they spent a lot of their time working on their memory. Well, in today's times, it's hard for us to remember what we had for breakfast in the morning because 18 million other things have grabbed our attention from now until then. Well, from medical records viewpoint, having a non-argument or subjective measure of what was seen. So if you have a recording of what we saw before and what we see now and what changed, what didn't, is it changing as we expect or not? If so, we'll keep treating it that way. If not, let's change the treatment.
The ability to practice evidence-based medicine. I have evidence.
Thank you. I knew there's a short way of saying that.
What it looked like as presented, what it looks like today. I know it's been 3 weeks between visits. I expected it to look a certain way. Either it did or it didn't. And then the side-by-side comparison tells me it's changing at a certain rate. I either need to be more aggressive on therapy, or the message to the patient is stay the course, it's working, or the message is this has worked better and faster than I expected. We're going to, cut the dose perhaps, or the frequency of eye drops, something like that. But it's evidence for why we're changing treatment.
Now, something else that has impressed me about working with you guys and learning what you do is that you guys tend to go over and above expectations when working with your doctors.
You're saying we're extra?
You are extra. In more ways than one, you're extra. And again, FYI, I've been working with them for years now. I get to say that.
We're special.
Meaning you don't stop helping them just at the machinery, at the equipment.
At the point of sale, yeah.
At the point of sale. You guys are looking at their practice holistically and how this equipment fits into it and how they can use it to better the entire practice, not just, oh, here's your thing, we've set it up, got to go.
Yeah. The ideal customer for us, a person who's just opening a new office, perfect for us because usually you're on a budget. You can't afford to have every single great piece of equipment that's out there. So you have to pick and choose. If you choose a slit lamp camera, you can now explain everything. And that tells you which type of patients you're attracting, what you should be treating more of, and what instruments do you need to treat that. So it allows you to identify, for the area where my office is, what's my tribe going to be? Who are the people that are going to need me, and what are they going to need me to do for them? So it's a great first tool for basically marketing anything you bring into your practice because you think it applies to your patient demographic the most. So that's number one, because we can add so much value on the front end on practice marketing. Watermark your images, share them on social media, let your patients share them. It's got your office, your website, your phone number if you believe in phones.
It's still a thing.
Yeah, but your patients are now doing your marketing work for you as a new office. And that's the digital version of word of mouth. It's great marketing for a young practice. The other side is the practice who has everything except a slit lamp camera. What took you so long?
Well, because the salesman came out and said, well, I need one of these. Look at this. This is an OCT. This does this. Well, how are you gonna treat this if you don't have this equipment?
Right.
And our equipment is very general purpose. Well, you had a slit lamp and you were using, before you had us, you still had your slit lamp. You're able to treat a patient. After you have us, you're also able to treat a patient, but you can do it a lot better. And so that's
the efficiency that it adds, as well as your established practice. You're treating a lot of different eye diseases with a lot of very advanced technologies. Maybe you have IPL, low-level light therapy, some of the newer devices for dry eye disease, for skin, for rosacea. Maybe you're doing Botox injections, who knows? But you have a lot of things at your disposal. What tool do you have to communicate for each particular patient? This is a service we provide that you could benefit from. So being able to show them a picture to get them into the funnel of, you probably belong in this treatment path, and let me help you get there.
Right.
So the synergy with all of the other devices you have is this helps you sort patients into categories and get them to kind of go where you're nudging them in terms of treatment options.
One of the other things I've really enjoyed working with you guys is because you know a doctor's practice so well, you're talking to me like that. And it's just so honestly refreshing that you know not just your business and your product, but you know their business and their industry. And that, to me, sets the bar way high for everybody.
I think a lot of that is coming back to the longevity of when we started. We certainly didn't know that when we started. We started with a very small understanding of a retinal surgeon's problem. How do I identify the people who need retinal surgery? And I'm traveling to find that. And along the way, there were some regulatory issues back in the 90s related to when you're practicing medicine across states. And if one specialty is providing equipment for another specialty, is that illegal? Is that an inducement to refer?
Is that a kickback?
Is that, is that something shady? Or no, it's really a great idea, which, today it's like, oh, telemedicine. Yeah, that's awesome. I can schedule my own telemedicine visit with my provider. So, 30 years is a lot of differences in terms of, how medicine is practiced. But it really comes down to, along the way, we learn more and more about our customers as they told us, and we listened to them, and they said, hey, this is a really great tool. The optometrist that was using to send images to the retinal surgeon. He said, boy, this is really kind of neat. This is a nice tool. And when Larry Alexander said, I think I'm a little faster with this than I was without it. I think you have something here. Great point of pride for me when I hear a customer tell me, boy, I love this about your software, or I don't understand how I practiced before. I can't believe it. I don't know how it was possible. When I get that phone call, wait a minute, this system isn't coming up, and this room's down, and I gotta have it.
Yeah. So part of it is we've lived the struggle. We've walked with our customers, and there have been struggles. COVID was a struggle for a lot of people, a lot of offices that shut down for 12 weeks, and.
Well, part of what we've learned is the evolution of optometry. There's been a lot of changes in the world of medicine and optometry over the last 30 years in terms of what they're allowed to do and how much medical training that they have now compared to what they had 40, 50 years ago. That was the standard course. There's been a lot of evolution that's, kind of very slowly and surely being recognized. And so as there's the frontline medical practitioners for a lot of communities, they had to learn how to adapt and see more things, and as a result,
treat them effectively.
And treat them effectively. So, being a part of that journey and their struggles of, hey, I'm not just providing a prescription for eyeglasses anymore. That's a very tiny bit of my business, or a portion of my business, but it's not all that I do.
Yeah, refraction is still important. People need to be able to see clearly, and that's
helpful. That's very helpful.
Yes. And there's so many new vision correction modalities available to help people see clearly. So you still need to maintain expertise in the vision side of the business, but the medical side has just become so much more important because as we age, the American demographic is shifting older. Ophthalmologists are starting to retire, leaving fewer and fewer to provide care for the increasing number of older Americans. So you hear a lot about eye diseases that are age-related macular degeneration. Cataract formation is age-related. Everything, a lot of things are driven by age. And as the population ages, optometrists are going to have to do more because we don't have enough primary medical eye care on the ophthalmology side. So it needs to come from optometry.
Now, the other thing you guys are doing, you talk about the evolution of their practices and how you practice medicine. You guys are actually getting in on that ground floor in the schools. Like you're able to be there doing labs and stuff, and we don't need to go into all the detail. I'm just going to make that statement because there's certain states that you can't, that you're not doing that in because of regulatory things, and then there's certain states that don't have, what is it?
Scope.
We're trying to keep it like on the down low, right?
So scope modernization, optometry is a legislated profession.
Yeah.
You can do what the legislature in your state says you can do. Unlike a medical doctor, an MD degree, you can basically do anything you feel comfortable doing. After you have an MD after your name, it's whatever you feel comfortable doing.
That doesn't seem fair or right. Okay.
Well, broad privileges are given to the MD degree.
Sure.
And obviously, there are medical societies. There's a Jefferson County Medical Society. Every county has a medical society that polices their own. That's the theory behind it. And for the most part, it works. Optometry is regulated state by state. So as each state looks at modernizing what an optometrist is allowed to do based upon what the schools are training and teaching, then each state has to decide what's in the best interests of
their population.
Yeah, the voters and citizens of that state, what's in their best interest. The more rural states have decided that optometrists are trained and able to do certain laser procedures and should be able to do them because we need to make this care accessible to population without requiring them to drive over a mountain range or 4 hours each way with a driver who's taking a day off work to get them to the doctor and back.
Right.
So as training has evolved, scope is being modernized in many states, and that will continue. at whatever pace it does, as each state recognizes that we need more eye care providers, and optometrists are trained and adequately prepared by schools to take over these roles.
So, give me a cool story. Just give me something cool that you've experienced over the years from all this. It could be a learning lesson. It could be the coolest thing ever, but what?
My favorite story is early on when we were testing out our equipment. We had a doc over in Indiana who was nearby, close by. We came in to install the equipment to have him take a look at it. And I don't know if the patient came in on an emergency basis or if they came in during the regular course or while we were there, but a patient came in and he held up the condensing lens to look at the back of the eye, and he looked at it and he saw evidence of a brain tumor. So a tumor had been pushing on the optic nerve and had bulged it so much that he was pretty sure it was a brain tumor.
Papilledema.
Yeah. And so he took the picture and he said, "Ma'am, you really need to see a specialist right away." And so he was able to refer and convince, like, this is what's happening here. This is pushing on your optic nerve, right? It was the optic nerve. And this is pushing on your optic nerve. And if it's not treated, you will probably go blind. So you need to get to a specialist right away. And he was able to convince her to go, not, because she felt fine. There was no pain.
Asymptomatic.
Yeah, there was no pain involved. There was no...
But bulging. And he was concerned enough, and the picture communicated the message to the patient that, this is what I see, this is why I'm concerned. And it's not just that you could go blind, it's that you could die of brain cancer.
Yeah.
I mean, so let's...
Get that fixed.
Let's find that tumor, get it out. Now, you're going to lose the eye. That's pretty much a foregone conclusion at the state that it was caught. But you'll still have one good eye and you'll be alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's an impactful, powerful story there.
So when you say, "Can your phone save a life?" In this case, our camera saved a life.
Yes.
Or at least helped to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What you got, Wes?
You want to tell the tick story?
The tick story.
Well, no, trying to think if we have I don't think we have the video, but
you're going to tell me somebody had a tick in their eye and we have a video somewhere of that?
No, we have a still photo of a tick in the eye. That was just a good old, Memphis, Tennessee, Arkansas tick, just tiny little tick, just grabbed on there and
fell off the barbecue,
the tick in the eye is a good conversation starter, especially among eye doctors.
Sure.
What'd you see today? Well, there's a guy with a tick in his eye.
Well, it's their favorite game was tic-tac-toe.
Oh, jeez. Anyway, this is what I have to deal with all the time.
You didn't think you were going to go a whole recording session without one of those.
No, not at all. I was thinking you would talk about like maybe London or the charity thing.
Yeah. Optometry has taken me places.
Yeah.
That's, I've got one more state, Montana, I'm coming eventually. One more state to get off 50. And, we did go we took our laser course to London. It was Christmas of 2021, so we still had a fair bit of COVID overhang, which makes international travel interesting.
Sure.
Every 2 days, take the test and, hope you're not positive, because if you're positive, you're staying home. And you're staying in London for another 2 weeks probably, because they won't let you back in the States when you're positive.
Right.
Yeah, so that was a little bit interesting. But the ability to take laser education around the world, across the country and around the world, that's been a rare privilege, certainly, to be tied with the Oklahoma faculty and the premier laser education as the first state to be able to do it, and the most experienced. Now Kentucky's catching up. We were the second state, and we'll have our own tradition developed here very shortly. But Oklahoma being first, they still have a base of experience that we're catching up to.
Nice. Okay, fellas, we're wrapping up, and I have one question I ask every guest. What does success look like or mean for you?
3 daughters almost done with college.
That's a good one, and I've not heard that one yet.
2 sons fully employed.
Just as good.
I'm halfway there. My oldest got his first job.
Yay.
So
Nice.
Now, the why, the key question for most entrepreneurs is, what is your why? Why do you do what you do? And being able to, education, as you probably guessed, is fairly important in our family. Our father's a professor of physiology, PhD. My oldest daughter is now Professor Harris at the University of Louisville also. On the librarian, non-teaching faculty, but faculty position.
Sweet.
So we have another professor in the family.
Nice.
But being able to give the gift of education to the next generation, that's our why.
Nice.
And my reason is I'm an engineer at heart. I like to see good solutions propagated, passed down to the next generation, and really seeing people benefit from what we create. Engineering is all about creation and problem solving, and hopefully in solving, whether it's a tiny problem or a huge problem, solving it well and providing
elegantly
a great answer for the situation.
Very
Something
good.
to be proud of.
Well, guys, thank you so much for playing along for this episode. I'll put all the information, of course, in the show notes, and I will see you guys on the next episode. Thank
Christy,
you.
Thank you
Thanks,
for everything
Christy.
you've done for us. We appreciate you.
Thanks.
Thanks for surviving another round of my puns.
And on that note, we're out. I told you these guys are fantastic, and I will include all their information. You'll be able to find stories with Pat as well out there. I've included one in this episode. I hope that you caught that all the way through. So if you've gotten this far, you've learned a lot about digital imaging systems, about the business, eye doctors, and just what success looks like to them. I honestly did not expect that answer. So success looks different for every person out there. You get to define your own success. And that's what I encourage you to do through this show, just to be able to show you examples of other people who may be doing in the same industry that you are, maybe not. But we are all in this thing called business together. And whatever your path looks like, you've got the rest of us to cheer you on and show you the way some days. And with that, go, my friends, define your own success. I've been your host, Christy Smallwood. Catch you on the next episode of Small Business Success Talk.